Welcome to the Positive Spiritual Living Podcast, brought to you by Unity on the Bay. This is your positive path for spiritual living.
All right, I want to share with you a story which, when it happened to me, I actually thought it was an hysterical story. This story I'm going to title The Magic Lantern. Now, to tell you a little bit about the context of the story, one of my favorite and most religiously observed activities in life is morning meditation. And my favorite place to have this morning meditation is out on my balcony as the sun is rising. It's such a lot of you know this because we live down here in Florida, and it's a beautiful experience to see the sun rising. And just before the sunrise, that stillness and that calm. And as I was out on the balcony, I thought to myself, what I really want is a lantern to go on my balcony. And so I felt this was like a divine inspiration, so I went to Amazon, and goodness knows there's more lanterns on there than you can shake a stick at. And so I was like dizzy by the time I had looked at them. And finally I made my selection. I ordered what was going to be my meditation lantern, and just a couple days later it arrived. And I brought it with me to share with you today. I pulled this lantern, which I am calling this morning the Magic Lantern, out of a little cardboard box. And I thought, this is beautiful. And then I looked down below it, and there's a little switch that says on. So I popped it, just as I'm doing now, and there is no lighted candle in the lantern. And I'm thinking, well, this has got to be a defective piece of merchandise. I'm going to have to put it back in the box and return it to Amazon. And so I turned it over one more time to try to mess with the switch, and I realized that when I turned it upside down, it was lighted. And I thought, well, that's just the strangest, well, I won't tell you exactly what came out of my lips, but I thought, that's the strangest thing ever. And so then I turned it back up, and the light went off again. And so I reached down below it. There's a little compartment for the battery. I opened that. I took the battery out. I thought it must be a weak battery or something here. And so I went and got a different battery. I put that in, and now nothing was happening one way or the other. The lantern just wasn't lighting. And I thought, well, this... And then I looked at the very bottom of this box that it came in, and I realized there was a white piece of paper down there. And I took the piece of paper out, and it said, instructions. I'm not really always good about reading instructions. So I read, and the first thing it said was, this is a solar-powered lamp. And like, well, that was shocking news to me. I didn't realize I had ordered a solar-powered lantern, but indeed I did. And it said that what you have to do is realize the battery in there is a rechargeable battery that charges from the top. So when light comes in from the top, the lantern goes off. And of course, every time I turned it upside down and the candle lit up inside, it was because it was not getting light and it thought it was dark outside. All right. Now, you could go on and on about this and questioning my mentality and my intelligence as to how I would possibly think that something was broken just because I wasn't following the instructions. And then I started getting all of these rich realizations out of this. I thought, this is just like life. Life comes with instructions, but if you don't know they're in the box, you're going to be messing with the lantern or your life, and you're going to be thinking that it's broken, that it's defective, that it doesn't work, and you need to take it back to Amazon. If that is in fact where life really comes from. And anymore, I'm beginning to think it just might be, that everything comes from Amazon. The manual, the instruction manual, the instructions for your life, they're in the box. They're in your own consciousness, just like they were in the box of that lantern, that I was so puzzled. And I might tell you I was a little frustrated and a little irritated that I wasn't going to be able to enjoy this lantern that I was anticipating, and that I was going to have to send it back. If you don't feel like you can enjoy your life this morning, my dear friend, if you think your life is broken, if you think your life needs to be returned to sender, stop and read the instructions, which of course I just happened to have brought with me today. If you're a good Unity student, and I know you all are, then you realize we have 5 basic principles that make up this way of life. And they're very simple. And because they're simple does not mean that they're easy. because many of them fly in the face of the conditioned programming that we have received in life. And so it can be difficult to really, number one, believe these principles. I know we like to talk about them. I love to talk about them. But can I actually believe them when I'm in the fires and the turmoils of my life? The first one most of you know is God is absolute good, everywhere present. Love that thought. God is absolute good, everywhere present. There's nothing but God. Go and turn on television and watch the news tonight and see if you can really believe that God is all there is and God is good. It doesn't seem that way. That's because your five senses are giving you conflicting reports. Second principle is human beings have a spark of divinity within them. Their very essence is of God, and therefore they are also inherently good. Now that's easy to think, relatively easy toward yourself. Yeah, I'm really, really good. I'm good stuff, and so is this person that I love, and so is that person that I love, and so is this adorable little 9-year-old granddaughter. So easy to love her. But what about, there's a name that comes to mind for these people, but I really can't speak it on the air. What about the people that you really have difficulty and challenge with, my friends? Can you believe that they also are on fire with God, and that there is no other presence or power but God operating through them? Third principle then is human beings create their experiences by the activity of their thinking, and that everything in the manifest realm has its beginning in thought. Everything that you are seeing out here started off as a thought in your own mind. Now this is a very powerful teaching, my friends, a very helpful instruction in the manual that comes with your life, the manual that lives inside of you. And I believe that as you hear these 5 principles, there's something inside of you that resonates. It's like, I remember that instruction manual. I thought I forgot about it, but I am remembering it. That everything begins as a thought in your mind. And according to the way you react to that thought, you're going to have feelings. And as you have thoughts and feelings, you begin then to translate experiences. You define who you think you are and who you think all of these other people are. Can you define them as God? The fourth principle is that prayer is creative thinking that heightens the connection with God's mind and therefore brings forth wisdom, healing, prosperity, and everything good. Prayer is the most accelerated form of thinking. Charles Fillmore, co-founder of Unity, made that statement. So prayer aligns us with the highest and most beautiful and noble within us. And finally, knowing and understanding the laws of life, also called truth, are not enough. Darn it. A person must also live the truth that he or she knows. It's not enough to get this stuff intellectually. You have to live it out in the fiber of your being. Let's go back now to this principle, third principle, human beings creating their experience by the activity of their thinking. In Unity, we frequently refer to this as the law of mind action. Thoughts held in mind produce experience after their kind. So you are creating your experience by virtue of the thoughts that you think. Now, I told you these are simple instructions for life, but I also told you they're not easy. So I ask you right now in this moment, this law of mind action, if I'm holding a thought, thoughts are responsible for all of my experiences, and I have control over my thoughts, therefore I have control over all of my experiences. Do you believe it? The illustration that I've used many times from this very spot is that of a film projector, if you remember these crazy things from antiquated days gone by. In a film projector of old, you used to have a light bulb. You had a light in a machine that ran a filter of a film in front of it. And according to what that filter was running in front of the light, you saw a projection down on the screen. Now, we still understand when we attend a movie theater that there's a projection that's being thrown out onto this screen of our lives, that we, in fact, are the projector, and that if we want to change something in the movie that we're watching, it's not going to be too terribly helpful for us to go down and try to manipulate or rearrange figures and circumstances on this screen. If you want to change the screen, if you want to change the movie, if you want to change the story, you have to go to the projector. You and I, dear friends, we are the projectors that are throwing out the images that are creating our day-to-day experience. And no one put this into a more succinct or articulate manner that I know of than the famed metaphysician Emmet Fox, who was with us on this planet from 1886 until 1951. As a youth, he attended a Jesuit college in England. He became an electrical engineer, which, by the way, is the same profession as my future son-in-law. And in a conversation with my son-in-law, I think I may have told you about this once or twice before, but when I was first getting to know him, he's a great guy. I think very highly of him and love him dearly. I said, "What do you do?" He said, "I'm an electrician. I'm like an electrical engineer." And I said, "Oh, that's interesting. We're in the same line of work." And he just looked at me like I had stepped off reality. I said, "Well, we both deal with invisible energies, and we both deal in trying to understand those invisible energies and how they can be utilized in our daily lives in practical ways that make for a more fulfilling life." And he continued to look at me like I'd stepped off the bus. But it's a fact, my friends, and I think this probably was part of Emmet Fox's early conditioning, was that he understood the invisible laws of energy and the invisible nature in which energy works, electricity works. He then began studying as a New Thought student and really took toward the work, in fact, ultimately ended up befriending a man named Thomas Troward, who was a very well-known New Thought teacher of his time. In 1931, Emmet Fox came over to the United States and accepted the position of minister of New York's Divine Science Church. And there he gathered as many as 5,500 people on a single Sunday morning in Carnegie Hall. Now, he left us many, many words, many, many writings. But perhaps the most popular and certainly one of the most powerful collections of words came in a 6-page pamphlet that he called The Golden Key. And if you look right now in the section below in the comments, you can see a link that will allow you to hook up to where you can acquire a copy of this powerful message from Emmet Fox. If you never read anything else of a metaphysical nature, I encourage you to read these few, just 6 pages of material called The Golden Key, beautifully, succinctly, and powerfully stated. And this is the essence of The Golden Key, what I'm going to share with you right now. Stop thinking about the difficulty, whatever it is, and think about God instead. Stop thinking about the difficulty and think about God instead. Stop thinking about the problem. Stop thinking about the challenge. Stop thinking about the insurmountable obstacle. Stop thinking about the sickness. Stop thinking about the condition and think about God instead. Now, this is an important 2-part equation. I'm just not standing here telling you to not think about your problems. Oh, just don't think about your problems. Never think. I'm saying don't think about your problems and think about God instead. So there's an action, an activity that needs to be exercised on my part and on your part. It's not enough just to stop thinking about your problems and they go away. It's to stop thinking about the problem, the difficulty, the challenge, the difficult person or people in your life, and instead think about God. So what does God mean to you? Whatever it is, and you don't have to profess to be any part of any religion here. You don't even have to believe in God if you can believe in a definition of God, if you can believe in the possibility of unconditional love, if you can believe in the possibility of overwhelming peace of mind, if you can believe in the possibility of vibrance and vitality and greatness and goodness. Just get your thoughts up as high as you can. Prayer is the highest form of thought. And prayer is nothing more than putting your focus and your attention on the noblest, most beautiful, sacred, and holy ideas and ideals that you possibly can. So here I'm telling you, no matter what the problem is in your life right now this morning, and we've all got one. I know this because we are the ones that put it there. We've all got a problem in our lives right now. We've all got a difficult situation. Stop thinking about the problem and think about God instead. Do you believe that that could actually completely and totally dismiss the problem? According to your belief, it's done unto you. You're the projector, and your mental content is being projected outward. Change the mental content, and you change your life. Don't just take my word for it. Put this to the test. But start it at a level of believability. Okay, the other day I was feeling really, really good. I was picking up some groceries at Publix. I decided, I feel so good, I'm going to buy a lottery ticket. And while I was there, I just had this feeling this was going to be a winning, big winning lottery ticket. And so I took it home, and a few days later, after the lottery numbers had been called, I walked back over to Publix. I was feeling really, really confident, so confident I told some of you a while back, I actually went and bought my groceries first before I checked the lottery number, because I knew that once I won the $7.5 million that was waiting for me, I'd be too shocked to buy the groceries. So I went, and I was like so psyched for this. Well, I did not win the $7.5 million. In fact, I got that lovely statement they put on all the lottery tickets, and I really think they could do better than this. You are not a winner. Couldn't they just say, not your time or better luck next time? You are not a winner. Somebody has to change those words. They're just not polite, they're not nice, and they're certainly not truth-oriented. You are a winner, but it wasn't my chance to win the $7.5 million. I still think I might do it, but you see, the issue is it was beyond my present level of believability. I couldn't actually believe myself to just instantaneously manifest $7.5 million out of nowhere. There are importances in recognizing you want to operate at a level that you can really invest with your belief. Now, many of you know that the Publix entity, and especially the Publix store down at 1776 Biscayne Boulevard, we've had our moments. In fact, I have referred to it as like the zip line to spiritual mastery. Because if you can keep yourself focused and centered in Publix while you're shopping, you can do anything. It starts when you pull in and try to get a parking place, and everybody else is trying to get a parking place ahead of you because everybody wants shelter over them. They don't want to be out in the rain and cold and the elements. So be it. I really decided that this was something I could work with. These difficult people, and I'm not going to name names because frankly I don't know all of them, but they're just people in that Publix store that I wasn't the best of friends with, and I realized they were opportunities for me to practice my spiritual teaching. So I decided to change that. I actually wrote across the top of my grocery list, "Appreciate this!" Exclamation point, all in red letters and highlighted in yellow because I didn't want to miss it. From the moment that I arrived in the parking lot, I wanted to appreciate. I wanted to be able to recognize that there's only one presence, one power, and there's God in everybody and everything. And slowly, over the next few visits to Publix, I did have my moments where I would forget, but I would come back to it. I have committed to this realization of having an active experience of the presence and the power of God in every breath I took in Publix. I got to tell you, I anticipate going to Publix these days more than you can possibly imagine as I push my sterilized cart up and down the aisles in my nice little mask, looking at everybody else. It's the only place in Miami where everybody else actually wears a mask. So you don't have to worry about getting into judgment issues and thinking, why isn't that... I feel like Publix is filled with angels. Now, it could also be, as a contributing factor, that I received the divine inspiration when this COVID thing arrived, that every time I went to Publix, I was going to tip the person at the cash register a $5 bill in appreciation. I was going to tell him, I just appreciate your being here. And it got to the point where some of these other people that I've really grown very fond of, their stocking shelves, I actually went to the bank and got several $5 bills so that I could start giving them to each one of them. So it could have been the $5 bills that made everybody suddenly so friendly in the Publix store. But it could have been, it just could have been, the golden key. And I believe that even if the $5 bill tips played an influence, they also were part of the golden key. You see, when you think about God instead of the problem, you are going to experience a shift in the way you act, in the way you behave, in the way that you show up. So as we continue to move through this most interesting journey that we are facing, not as individuals, not even as states or countries, but as a family of humanity, let us remember, whatever the challenge may be, stop thinking about the difficulty, whatever it is, and think about God instead. God bless you.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Positive Spiritual Living Podcast, brought to you by Unity on the Bay, a spiritual community located in Miami, Florida. Unity on the Bay is supported by the generosity of its community. If you'd like to make a donation or learn more about Unity on the Bay, please visit unityonthebay.org. You can also follow Unity on the Bay on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for even more positive spiritual inspiration. Until next time, thanks for listening and many blessings. Namaste.